Public Works meeting, Town of Marshfield. It's 6:06. There's our agenda tonight has a number of different categories. The first category is approval of minutes for prior board meetings, in which we're going to approve have a discussion and then approval of open meeting minutes of May 24th and open and executive minutes on open meeting of June 7th. Second category is items for action. We have one item extending the contract 2021-02 landfill monitoring and reporting services with Weston and Sampson. Category number 3 is items to discuss, and we have 7 items. An update of 965 Plain Street, update of Marshfield Hills sidewalk project, status of the infrastructure letter that we sent to our representatives, both in the federal and the state level, proposed bylaw for PFAS in our Zone 1 and 2 town wells. We'll have a discussion on that. We'll have a discussion on enterprise methodology. Tom's going to talk about Bill Dodge's retirement, former veterans administrator.
Correct.
And the last is Brent Rock exposed sewer outfall pipe.
If we may, when Ron arrives, I'd like to take that out of order so he could get
Sure,
out of
we'll
here.
do that first. And then we're going to have the next category would be superintendent's report and update of different items that are happening in the town related to the DPW. The executive session for the superintendent's contract is on the agenda, but we're not going to take it up. We'll probably take it up when town council returns the contract to us at probably sometime next week. Our next meeting will be only one meeting in the month of July and August, and that will be in July 12th at 6 o'clock at the public library in what do they call this? The meeting rooms?
Program room.
Program room. And then we're going to adjourn. That is the agenda for June 21st, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We don't have to
Oh,
hold
that's
the
right,
board
we
because
don't
we're all
have to
here.
hold the board. Yeah, we're all here.
Okay, so the first item is approval of minutes of prior board meetings.
Can we bypass the minutes, the open minutes, right?
The open minutes for June 7th.
June 7th, right, yeah.
June 7th, I'm done with the
No.
others are.
So let's go for just the
524.
May 24th, 2021.
Okay.
Has everyone reviewed them?
I have also.
Any comments?
I have none.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of May 24th, 2021. Do you have a second?
Your turn, John.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you want to go, since Rod has something to do with the Weston Sampson, we'll wait for Rod on that.
Executive.
Yeah, we're
session.
gonna wait on Rod, but executive session, we're gonna buy.
Yeah, we're going to bypass this executive session.
Oh,
Let's just go to the updates.
we've got executive session minutes that are available to be voted on.
Okay, so we can go into executive session for review.
So on the executive session minutes of June 7th,
Yeah, no, of 524, Bob.
that wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the other, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
I make, any comments on the executive session minutes?
None.
I had none either.
Okay, make a motion to accept
Second.
the executive session minutes of 5/24. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Action item is with Weston Sampson's engineering, and the town engineer is on his way, so we're gonna hold on that. Let's just go to the items for discussion. Update of 965 Plain Street. I'm gonna turn this over to Dave, who is the board's representative with the superintendent on the build out of the DPW facility.
I will let Tom go forward with it. The one thing I will say is that we had a review of all of the pre-qualifications for which Tom had to recuse himself because he had a relative working for a company that was at the general contractor's bids. And, you know, exclusive of that particular item, Tom can speak on any of the rest of it.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Really, this week, there's no activity up there. We've got just about all of the unsuitable material removed. PMA is trying to negotiate with GNR Construction, the contractor for the police station, on some gravel, excess gravel they may have. In the meantime, I've got some quotes from some of the local suppliers for the MO103 spec for structural material, structural gravel that we may need to bring the site up about a foot within the footprint of the building. We're right now about a foot below the final grade, so we're gonna have to bring up to rough grade anyways, to the bottom of
Do
the
you have a
site.
nominal figure of how many cubic yards we're talking about?
Roughly 800.
Thank you.
Yeah, roughly 800, and so in case some of the material that we were able to dig out that was suitable, we stockpiled, and we removed the Lumi organic stuff away. But we also had that pile of the sandy gravel tested, so this week we should find out close to the end of the week whether we can use that material to backfill what we remove for unsuitable, and then we can bring in the spec 103 gravel to come up to the subgrade. So we pulled out an old drainage line. We've started to clean out the detention basin. We've stripped the site right down to rough grade right now, the whole site. We've removed all of the material on site. So we're moving along pretty good. We've cut out the asphalt. The footprint of the building is all, as I said, all the unsuitable. It has been removed. We're looking at maybe doing some drainage work. The water main is in. We're going to be chlorinating and testing that line. They're going to put a hydrant in this week to be able to do that. So the hydrant may be temporary. We may leave it there permanently, but that's something we'll discuss at a future meeting.
Quick question, I mean, one of the arguments in favor of leaving the hydrant there is its proximity to the diesel tank?
Yes and no. One of the reasons, they asked us if we wanted an additional hydrant on site.
Yeah.
So we thought that the proximity to the tank, the building,
Okay.
and the existing office building would be beneficial. Because I think we're about the same distance from the office building, from the hydrant in the front, as we will be if we leave
Okay.
one there.
And basically you can attack from two sides if you
Yes.
have a fire.
Yeah, and then there'll be a third one on site on the back side of the equipment building.
For clarification, the state spec 103, that's associated with the ability of the soil for compaction?
Yes,
Loading.
it's a 2-inch minus gravel it's got the high compaction.
Okay.
So it's structural. They use it mostly on roads, but we can use it for the building.
Very good, thank you.
I have a question, Tom.
Sure.
The gravel, is any of the gravel behind the police station, that big pile?
That's what we're talking about. We're negotiating. They need some of it.
Yeah, but some of it's all out.
Oh, no, that's a separate pile. The one that's further down back is the pile that we originally screened.
Yeah,
We've used just about all of that up.
okay.
So where our bullpen was,
Yeah,
all right, there's a couple of piles of gravel there, and that gravel has been tested. So it's already met the Proctor's scale, so we can use that. But they have a need for some of it, and we're trying to determine how much they're gonna need and how much we can then at that point take.
yeah, it's a work in progress. Secondly, any work that's using the enterprise fund employees for all
I
this
have
work?
not used anyone other
Okay,
than
that's
the water main going in.
Yeah, you're keeping track of the time.
He just went through.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
the
my
water
thought.
main,
Yeah.
the water main, they put the water, they finished it,
What size? It was like,
they put an 8-inch
8-inch
main,
main.
yeah, all the way up. They'll run a 6-inch lateral for the hydrant off of that. And, yeah, so that's something that we've kept track of, that we knew from the beginning that the water department would be doing for us, so
That's
it's,
fine, as long as it's tracked.
yeah,
Then somewhere along the line, we'll.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, Tom, on the schedule, what is the schedule for, awarding the bid for the building? And what is the schedule for the completion?
Tomorrow, Wednesday, it will be advertised in the Central Register, and on the 30th, it goes out for public bid.
Of the 30th of June?
June. We're hoping to have a contractor under contract by the end of the first week in August. That's the goal. If the bids are satisfactory to
Right,
us.
and then the schedule for construction?
Will be, we're hoping August, second week in August, they're gonna.
Yeah, what is the period of construction?
18 months.
18 months. Okay.
One item, backtracking a little bit, it would be, did we have any further status on the unit you were buying from East Bridgewater that would let us get rid of all the trailers? Most of the trailers, I should say.
The trailer, I was able to talk to a transportation company. We probably won't get it moved until around the 1st of August. And I'm still, she's gotta send a person down to to look at the trailer and estimate it and then come back to us. She, first, when I emailed back with her last week on Thursday, I responded on Wednesday to her email that I still want to go forward with it. And that's when she got back and said she has to send someone down so they could put a number on it. Once we get the number, the East Bridgewater has come up with a number to sell it. And if the price of moving it could be a wash with them selling it to us. So
Okay.
we could get it for just moving it, the cost of moving it.
All right, next
Tom's been
up,
very diligent on that, and I want to compliment him on first of all the connections that'll let him pull it off, and secondly, the dogged way in which he's gone after it.
Oh, thank
good, good. Any other items on update of 965 Plain Street?
Right now, we're looking at trying to get rid of some of the trailers that we have there by purchasing this trailer that we're talking about. We'll be able to eliminate the bathroom trailer, the dispatch trailer, and a cemetery trees and greens trailer, and we'll be able to coordinate all that into one unit. So that's a savings of 3. Currently, we lease those trailers.
So we just hand it back to them?
We'll just give them back.
Yeah, okay, good.
And
Okay,
we're looking at purchasing some of the storage containers.
good. Next item, update of Marshfield Hills sidewalk question?
He had asked to have Tom, and asked that we could move to Rod.
Oh, okay.
Sure, yeah.
So let's get off of the items of items of discussion, and let's go to the engineering issues.
Items for action.
The first one that we want to talk about is the Brant Rock exposed sewer outfall pipe.
Actually, the contract is the first one.
No, well, I know that, but
Okay. you want to drop
Tom
that?
said he wanted to talk about that one first.
I think he said before.
Okay, so this is a picture of the outfall pipe in Brant Rock. It's approximately 50 or 60 feet off the wall there. It's exposed. And talking to the residents, it has been exposed maybe a handful of times, 4 times, I think.
Is that where they took all the sand away from there?
4 times in like 50 years. This is, it's just south of Brant Rock. It goes out 2,000 or 3,000 feet out offshore.
Yeah.
It's the effluent from the wastewater plant. So this pipe is exposed right now, and over the last 3 weeks, we've been monitoring it to see if it gets covered up, and it's not getting covered up. The sand isn't coming back. The waves and the beach isn't, it isn't bringing the sand back for whatever reason.
Quick look at the picture. Looks like there's 2 seams of peat to either side of that.
Right,
Okay.
right.
That's
So
what's holding the beach together.
That's protecting it. It
Right.
is protecting it, so, That is, that's probably the saving grace right there, but I don't know what's gonna happen whether, when a storm comes in.
Can you see that on your camera?
This could be the end of the camera close up on us.
There's peat on either side of it. That's what's holding the whole beach together. A lot of beaches have, have peat. When you see the peat, you know that the overburdened sand has been washed away. And that's the whole issue of beach renourishment. We don't have a beach renourishment program, nor does anyone in the south, along the coastline. That's what we have. We've had Wood's whole group looking at the shifting of sands study that's been going on. And we're taking it from an engineering standpoint.
So we're looking at maybe a two-prong approach. One is to cover it right now with whatever we can cover with, take the material that's on the beach right now that's mostly cobble, maybe adding some sand, and cover the pipe, just to get something on top of it, okay, in case a storm comes through and, you know, it might take the material off again, but just to cover it, that would be an immediate approach. File some sort of emergency certification so that we can do that with Concom, and then notify the Army Corps and whatever notifications we have to do in order to do that. And then a longer term solution might be to put one of those articulated mattresses, concrete mattresses over the top and anchor it with some sort of helical screws or an appropriate anchoring system. So we can cover it. Try to keep it as low profile as we possibly can, but puts more of a permanent cover over that. That's gonna take some permitting. Notice of intent, Army Corps, 401 water quality, Chapter 91, and maybe a MEPA process.
So we have a two-prong approach. The first is to deal with the emergency in case we have a major storm, which we probably won't because it's close to summertime, but that doesn't mean
Right.
that we're not start losing material. And then the second is a longer term.
Right. The fact
Now,
that,
does it expose after it's on the beach, but out in the water? How far is it exposed out further?
it's 30 feet exposed. When the tide goes out, it's about 30 feet that's uncovered.
Even in the wave
Yeah,
action?
it's in the tidal zone.
Yeah.
It's only exposed in the tidal zone itself. So what you're seeing is a low tide. And the peat is helping out because it's keeping it from getting undermined.
Quick question for you, too. What risks do we have from, like, a storm coming in the interim period where, you know, like, you've got a substantial rock off to the side being picked up and thrown against the pipe?
That's a valid concern.
Okay, so I mean, that'll be part of your argument when you go before Concom about an emergency
Impact
situation.
would be,
Okay. And have we, kicking to Tom for a second, have we reached out to town council for looking at this and giving us a declaration of emergency?
We have not yet. Rod and I were just trying to figure out our approach
Okay,
first.
so now that you have it, you can go forward.
Right. I know that we were concerned about what permitting might be,
Yeah.
that we would have to file, and we do have a Chapter 91, but our biggest concern was dealing with the Corps.
Right.
And now Rod has found out that there are additional permitting
Right.
that will be needed in order for us to go out there. But by declaring it a state of emergency, we can go out there and do the work.
The interim fix.
So can we make a motion
But we're
because
authorized.
of discussion, can we make a motion to declare it as a board, as a state of emergency? Because if this thing breaks open, it's gonna ruin the beach season.
Oh, without a doubt. I think that it probably makes sense to have the board declare it a state of emergency based on what you heard from,
Potential risk.
right, on the potential.
So I'd like to make a
risk.
motion to declare this exposed pipe, partially exposed pipe, as a state of emergency because of the potential risk that would be happen to the surrounding area, especially the beaches. And that we take any means that we need to do is to stabilize this situation.
Okay. I will second that motion.
I think John seconded.
Go ahead, John, you had a question?
Just what type of material is it?
That is concrete cylinder pipe.
All right, thank you.
It's a kind of a,
It's
it's a
that
pressure
spun
pipe.
pipe.
Yeah, all right. We got a vote?
But before, I'd like to add just a comment to the effect that, you know, we are recognizing right now that we have an exposed significant risk factor in front of us, and that as a board, we want to be proactive at this point in time, now that we have a plan from an engineering standpoint, to proceed and mitigate on an interim basis, and then proceed with all of the appropriate engineering and all of the appropriate regulatory hurdles to make a permanent fix. And that is actually, I believe.
That's
what
the
we are
second
voting
part. That's the second part.
Okay, you do this one or two?
No, we do the first part first,
Yeah,
the
okay.
emergency.
Yeah, it's
And then the
emergency.
second part is what Dave just said.
That's part of the motion?
The motion, it's a two-part motion. The first part is to declare it as an emergency and take whatever means it is to stabilize the emergency.
So
The
we'll
second
vote-
part is to move forward with a permanent fix. And to stabilize whatever, including any kind of associated permits and at what level, at the different levels of government that need the permit.
Second on that one?
So on the first part, I make the motion for the first part, the emergency. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For the second part is, I make the motion to take whatever it needs to do to stabilize this, to put a permanent fix on it so it doesn't happen again. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the second,
Thanks, Rod.
Thank you, Rod.
thank you, Rod.
If you just give me a minute, the second item is on the landfill.
Yep.
I'm gonna give
Bring it,
Paul a
Paul.
quick call.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about it? I don't know if you want to see it.
Hey, Paul, this is Tom. I have you on speaker. Well, thank you. I have you on speakerphone, so we're gonna bring up to extend the contract for the landfill.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay, folks, or?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, anyway.
Speaker's on the bottom of that here, turn it to the
This
side.
work, again, this work is for the town's obligation to conduct, this landfill environmental monitoring for parties, that's all of which are stated by the quantities and for, what those samples that are all doing this. This year, they've always presented the contract as historically based with, on a template of one of our older number contracts. This year, they presented a different template with expanded terms and conditions. Just more stuff and integral to working under an extension to the present contract. So after I think the wise counsel of law suggested just extending the present contract, it's just a more expeditious way of getting this done. That's how we decided to proceed. I'll say that the scope of this and the cost is exactly the same as it was last year, and last year there was prices increased by just $1,000 because of the development stuff. It's just trading on the higher cost of doing the third-party inspections. I reviewed the spring report in quite a bit of detail. I've had a couple of communications with their hydrogeologist that actually does the sampling on this. So there's just to give people some flavor from how much there is here now on a cumulative extent. We started this sampling. The sampling started in the spring of 1997. So essentially, there's been 2 rounds every year for about 25 years. That gives us essentially 50 columns of data for every well. There's 5 wells that are sampled and 2 groundwater sampling surface water sampling points. That fellowship different things, but, you know, it's just something that we have to do. There's nothing remarkable, I'd say, about this at all. You know, the patterns seem to be pretty much the way they've been. And regarding the landfills, there's one thing that, you know, definitely has been declining, and the oxygen levels have been higher as the organic material in the landfill just continues to degrade. So anyway, the reason for extending the present contract was for efficiency's sake and to simply not have to deal with the new terms and conditions. I have requested council's input on this. I've not received it yet, and the reason why I wrote the motion as I did, which is subject to the concurrence of council, is just that, you know, to my way, I couldn't say anything. Well, I couldn't say anything that would preclude us from moving in this direction, but on the other hand, you know, there may be something that doesn't let us do that, so.
Sounds good, Paul.
So I got a question, Paul, if you can hear me.
Yes.
All right, what does the annual CB/SS BUD management for $6,000, what's that get us?
I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing this question.
On task number 6,
Task number 6,
the annual CBSS BUD management, what is that?
Space cleaning and
Oh, that's the-
flood management. That's something that traces back to 2010, and it's again the DEP requirement that all catch basin cleanings and street sweepings have to
Official use determination.
be treated as solid waste unless they're managed specifically in accordance with the DEP permit known as beneficial use determination permit for BUD. That's been in place since 2013. We've been, due to some thresholds, we've had a very difficult time being able to reuse this material on site anywhere, and in some portions of the ready tested material are suitable for use, you know, as for surface restoration and on our covered landfill, on our capped landfill. This is just a continuing work in progress. We're going to try to get some more sampling done in the near future. It's a pretty complex thing all by itself, you know, and I don't know the minutiae of it incredibly perhaps as well as I should, but like the site professional from Weston, it's actually Sean Healy, that absolutely has his arms around all these details. He works very closely and very directly with Jimmy Kent on this, you know, to find out, you know, what the current status of the material is, you know, what newly received materials there are, you know, where it's being stored, etc. So,
Okay.
but again, it's a requirement, so that's why we're doing it.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Okay, that's good, I'm good.
All right.
So I'd like to make the motion.
I have a question.
If there are no other questions?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, just go.
Hey, Paul,
Yeah.
is anything associated with the photovoltaic project embedded within this contract?
Sorry, again, having a hard time hearing.
I'll try it louder. Is anything in this contract associated with any way, shape, or form with the photovoltaic project that's supposed to take place on the landfill?
Okay, so was this anything about the solar project? Did I hear that correctly?
yes, he's asking if if there's any relationship with the solar project.
No, I have heard we attempted to get at the status of the solar project and where things were moving on that when about 2 months ago when we dealt with, you know, getting the DEP permit to get the vents repaired. And at that point, we did reach out from, so funny, DEP said, we don't know, so talk to Ty and Bond. The solar team, Bond said, we'll have to talk to NextGrid developer. The developer, NextGrid, said, we have to talk to Eversource. And basically, the answer I got is, don't wait, essentially something like, don't wait for us, and just proceed with your vent repair the way you normally would. So, you know, by inference, this is kind of rather, you know, I think kind of separate from that. We would have to be doing the same kind of stuff and probably the same scope anyway, whether there was a solar project or not, so.
Well, I have this comment. When I look at a couple of items here, the first and foremost one would be the annual third-party cap inspection and reporting. You know, if they're doing work up there subsequent to the completion of the work, there should be a separate inspection of the physical condition of the cap paid for by the photovoltaic project. And that should eliminate at least one of our 2 inspections in a given year.
Right.
So this is a not to.
Yeah, I know that when we first started discussing this, one of the things we held off on the vents was that we thought that we could incorporate the fixing of the vents in the contract with whoever was going to install the
I
photovoltaic.
remember that, and what I remember is the fact that Eversource changed their mind about the interconnection and decided they had to upgrade the services in that area, and that's what's delayed this project, along with DEP and COVID-19. But I guess, you know, that, I look at that third-party cap inspection reporting, and there should be, you know, additional inspections required once we do have the PV in place, at least through the first couple of years. You know, so that's a cost that should not end up being charged if it doesn't have to be by
Right.
Weston and Sampson. And if we don't make that clear to them in this contract, then we know they will charge us. 'Cause they
Right.
are Weston and Sampson. And the other one would be, that was part and parcel of that, was also the soil gas monitoring, okay, and the groundwater sampling. Because basically, as you add load to the cover on that capped landfill, you will get some more compression, and that can influence both the water, surface water sampling, and the off gas that comes out into the soil. So those, you know, to me, are something, I don't know whether that was addressed with Weston and Sampson or not. You know, and I don't have a problem right now. It doesn't look like we would be doing fiscal 2022, dealing with this in any particular way, but as we go forward into the next contract, we definitely ought to make sure that we're incorporating that sort of thing, so we're not getting a double charge out of it. Because I have no doubt if they have the opportunity to hire Weston and Sampson to do the work, they will.
We'll definitely monitor that.
That would be-
On the time frame of that PV startup.
On Dave's comment, one is that they hired Weston and Sampson to do work for the photo people. That would be a conflict because they work for us, not work for.
Right.
That would be one. The second is that, are they doing a complete survey to see what the drop in elevation?
I must imagine
It's part of the whole negotiations. I was involved with that back when we were in the hospital, I think, at the time, and took it off Sean's back. They were going to do a full topographic of the cap prior to the installation,
Okay.
and then subsequent to the installation for any change in elevations.
And then what is the period of time of the next level to see if there's any change?
I believe that there was, if memory serves me, at least through the first 2 to 3 years, the PV was a built-in requirement that we had stipulated to the Board of Selectmen, that there should be an ongoing inspection of that and an ongoing survey of the elevations.
Right.
Okay, now, the final contract draft that I had last seen had incorporated some of those concerns. And I believe DEP does require it.
Yeah, okay. So, but this particular contract is just the same contract we've let out
That's
every
correct.
single year, and that next year it could change.
Yes.
So we will deal with that. So for this year, we're going to continue on as normal business.
Right.
At the same amount as last year.
Right.
Essentially, what was the $1,000 increase we had for fiscal 2021
Yeah.
there is no additional increase at this time. The one point I would like to add is we look at the next fiscal 2023 renewal. The performance of Weston and Sampson during the 965 project should weigh in on whether or not, in fact, we continue service with Weston and Sampson. If they're extraing the daylights out of us on 965,
Well, we can
I
always
would
go
not
out to
want to
bid.
reward them by
Right.
extending them again.
We could go out to request for qualifications and, so, you know,
Yeah,
how many years has this contract been going on?
1991.
91.
Is there any reason why we would What would be the reason why we would not go out to bid?
I can speak to that. There was a point in time when we had a brand-new DEP inspector that arrived on site and told us that we had to rehabilitate construction monitoring wells and also upgrade some of the existing test wells, at permanent test wells at the time. And I went to Weston and Sampson at the time, and I wanted to get a spreadsheet that showed the graphic of the trends for both the soil and the gas monitoring, et cetera. And they were just doing the reports. They said they didn't have them in a spreadsheet, okay? And when we were in the negotiations for 965, and I don't recall, Tom, whether you were involved at the time or not, but basically, Jeff Alberti, when I raised that subject to him, lo and behold, all of a sudden, up come a spreadsheet with all the information we wanted because the PV business was going on at the same time. You know, that is the kind of thing that I had concerns about with Weston and Sampson. And, there were some other projects that I found their performance to be less than.
You're in favor of throwing them under the bus?
My basic position is that when we renegotiate, the details in the contract, they're there, and now, going forward, I know at this time, we will have the spreadsheets and the statistics we need. What we want to make sure is that that's embedded forever.
Yes.
If we continue to use them.
Fine, and I know how to drive a bus, believe me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that bud
So-
management was not for the place next door.
No. All right, so I'll make a motion for this particular contract, not future contracts, is to
Okay.
extend contract 2021-02 for professional landfill environmental monitoring and reporting services with Weston and Sampson Engineers Incorporated for a period of 1 year in the amount not to exceed $49,000 and subject to concurrence of council and to authorize the chairman or designated member to execute the contract documents when they are prepared. Not to be confused what's going to happen in the future.
Correct. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right, Paul, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
okay, go back to, so
Have
that
a
takes
good
care
night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on to back to the items to discuss.
So I might interrupt for just a moment.
Sure, go ahead.
Tom, is there anything else that we can knock out of the park so that Rod can?
I think that's all we had with.
I didn't know if he was involved, going to be commenting on the PFAS in Zone 1 and Zone 2.
No, I don't think he was planning on that.
Well, I didn't have any,
Okay.
I read your draft,
Okay.
and I didn't see anything.
So why was it, Rod is here, and why don't we just bring that item up? Because, Dave, you have an item here, number 4, proposed bylaw control for PFAS in zone 1 and 2 for town wells. So Dave, since you brought it up, I'll let you take that.
The only thing is, I would see if DEP has a model bylaw, that they probably,
I have not, in an online search, I didn't turn anything up. I don't know whether you had anything. I had the same information that you had provided with regard to what it is and how you, what it causes it, where it comes from for the most part. I went through and looked at the town's bylaws related to the Board of Public Health, along with our own water protection bylaws that we've implemented. And it struck me that the most appropriate place for this would be the new Marshfield, or the Marshfield bylaw 285.23, used to be the old 94. And that was for basically when we ran into an issue with Osmos working for Verizon was treating utility poles and doing some of it in the neighborhood of our well sites. So we implemented this to make sure that they didn't come into Zone 1 in any way, shape, or form without notifying us. And looking at that, that seemed to be the appropriate place. The initial sentence under the authorization is the old, what went before the bylaw off of my original draft, so that would be obviously revised. But what I am proposing is we put in language after the wellhead protection in Zone 1 to read, entities performing any activity in Zone 1 or Zone 2 of the town aquifers are also required to provide the superintendent, water division supervisor, town engineer, and Board of Health a complete list of substances that contain chemicals or other products containing Polyfluoroalkyl substances, also known as PFASs or PFASs. These includes PFOA, PFOS, Gen X, and other such chemicals, if these are going to be used. The list shall show the PFAS content by volume or mass. Entities shall show causes to why products or chemicals without PFAS cannot be used for the work. Entities that perform work where the use of PFAS cannot be avoided shall submit work plans to the superintendent, water division supervisor, town engineer, and board of health that show how physical barriers, capture methods, or other actions will be implemented to prevent PFAS from entering soils and groundwater of Zone 1 and Zone 2. These activities shall include, but are not limited to, new construction, pole replacement, relocation, pole pesticide, blah, blah, blah. That was in the previous language. And this bylaw will not apply to the water division activities, including those by the division's contractors or other town departments performing work for the water division. The reason for that is the superintendent has the authority and the ability through the town engineer and the water staff to prevent PFAS from being introduced in the first place.
So I have a question to the town engineer. Have we tested all our wells, and do we have any PFAS in any of our wells?
We have PFAS, but it doesn't reach the limits, and we have tested.
Which wells?
That, I don't know specifically which wells they are, but we do have them in a number of them. There's a limit of 20.
Those numbers.
Yeah.
I'm
You
not
might
sure
want
of the numbers.
20 milligrams.
I'm not sure of the numbers, they were relatively low.
If I might, because I had a discussion with Paul Duras, our water supervisor, on that, Tom. The highest recorded concentration was 7 parts per trillion in one well. There were a number of wells where he actually had like an initial test that came in at 1 1/2 parts per trillion, but on the follow-up, which is the basically for repeatability of the ability to do the analytical test, it actually, they couldn't detect it a second time, so they're listed as none detected. I believe there was another well that was somewhere in the 3 range, if I remember right, parts per trillion. So we have basically very sound water at the well sites, and there was none detected, as I recall it, on any of the distribution samples.
Right.
So the threshold is that number, there's a number of different numbers. I know a little bit about this. There's a number of different issues. There's a 20 parts per tree. It's like a white sand with 3 little black dots on it. The whole beach is white except for 3 dots. It is one part per tree. Then there's a 70, then there's another one. So the number's changing. I mean, it's all based on risk assessment. And EPA and the state and DOT, depending who you ask, the numbers all over the place. So, is our water safe? Yes.
Yeah.
And because, that's why I asked the question. Is this a concern? It's a concern all over the state. And PFAS is what they call forever chemicals, and it's in everything. It's in non-stick cookware, stain-resistant furniture, carpets, clothing, waterproof shoes, clothing, mattresses, non-stick food packaging, and then the big pieces, and there are sections of where the military bases are firefighting foam. And that's what, if there was any firefighting foam, it would be at the airport, and we don't have any wells down at the airport. So, and you know, all the fire departments have really got rid of most of their firefighting foam. That would have any of it in it. So we're pretty safe is the message I want to send out there. But I do appreciate Dave for bringing that up. We need to work with the health department because it's a health risk piece to come up with any kind of, how do you police what really is in a zone 2? I mean, if it's some of the things that they were talking about is you know, beauty products.
Well,
I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ones, waxes, paints, cleaning department. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we need to deal with. The issue, really what the issue is, it's a risk-based number, it's a health issue, and that we need to be asking the Board of Health and the health agent what we should do, how we would police it if it was in the Zone 1 and Zone 2.
If I might, the only issue I have I agree with your comments in general. The only problem I have with them is everything that I see on the Board of Health for basically a water contamination type of requirement or regulation defers to the state regulations by DEP. For
Yeah.
example, the nitrate concentrations and that sort of thing. The state right now has 20 parts per trillion for
Right.
drinking water. I do know that in doing some additional research online on this, that the state of Maine is actually got a bill in the legislature to make the 20 parts per trillion law under, for water purposes, regardless of whether it's a public or private water source. And the additional, concern I would have is, the Board of Health, we can only control what we can control, which is what this bylaw is about.
Correct.
Okay, which is what takes place for us in our activities. Beyond that, that relies on the citizenry as a whole, recognizing that this is an issue that they can introduce into the water system, and probably already have, and I just recommend you do what I got, cast iron skillets.
Well, the other issue is that we already have in a lot of our wells, ability to treat the water.
Right.
We have activated carbon in some of our wells, which PFOS would be picked up through. And there's different other resins and membranes that we could implement if it got to that point. So, we're not at risk, but I wanted to bring up the other issues of how we police it and who would be also involved.
That's a good letter, Dave.
The bylaw.
My comment too is, this PFAS, it's also in dental floss,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
It's in everything.
Yeah, it's in every Teflon.
It
cookware.
just doesn't break down.
Yeah.
Okay,
3M.
Yeah, I mean, these are issues, I'm just designing this as we did for the osmosis treatment.
Yeah, it's a good, yeah, that's correct.
When you come into zone 1,
Yeah.
you're
Be
completely
prepared.
excluded, we control that. When you come into zone 2, you have to mitigate. If we're doing construction work, if one of our tanks happens to be residing in zone 2, for example, not that that's the case, because we're pretty high up off the aquifer, but, any work that we have going on could be a water conduit. Where we're running water lines, and we might have a contractor that is using the material as a cleaning agent or something like that. We want to exclude that. Let's just go to water and bleach.
So what do you
Whatever we
want?
take.
okay.
We want to do a consensus
So,
or a vote to
Well,
support?
what I was going to propose is that, at the next meeting, I will clean this up for preparation as a STM warrant article for the fall special town meeting. And then we can vote on it. The Board of Selectmen tonight is setting the date for the opening and the closing of the special town meeting warrant on their
Okay.
agenda. So this fits in.
So we need to come up with a presentation of what chemicals we're talking about. Because since you're talking universe, we're talking about
March.
small and how to police it.
Well, basically, the onus
Right on.
is on the contractor to identify PFAS as any of the products he's bringing in. That's the way this is written.
No, I get that, so that.
We're not going to tell him what chemicals, because then we can find ourselves.
I get that, so when a contractor comes in and I'm going to use X number of chemicals, someone in the department, town administrator, or the town engineer, or somebody in the water department needs to have a list of, to know that. I mean, there's got to be some kind of knowledge, is my point.
Well, I guess what I would be saying to you is, the action I took back in, this was 2019, actually 2018, I'm sorry, when we had the water breakdown on Central Avenue, Sean was tied up, Tom was out on medical leave, and basically, I stepped up to chase this down, okay? And the bottom line was, I made them provide me their documentation
Correct.
to see what they had, okay? Complete analysis. That's the requirement we turn around and go at the contractor for. You're bringing in a cleaning solvent, I want to see the analysis. You're bringing in a treatment chemical, I want to see the analysis, okay? And if it has, and I'm pretty darn sure, I haven't dug my thing out of the file yet, but I'm pretty sure that I saw some polyfluoroalkyl in
So how do
the insect treatment they were using.
Yeah, so in the future.
Because it's a good binder.
In the
it
future,
holds it
Dave
together.
Terry's not gonna be around to say, I wanna see it. Who's gonna be that person?
Well, that's why it goes not to Dave Carrier, but to the superintendent, the town engineer, and the water supervisor, who are our
And the Board of
our
Health,
subject
somebody in
experts.
the health department.
They are our subject experts.
Right, because they're the risk-based person.
That's why my name's not there.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, good discussion. Why don't we do the update on the Marshall Hills sidewalk project?
Okay, Marshfield Hills sidewalk project, the trees have been cut, the granite has been delivered, and the water main project on Plain Street will be wrapping up this week, and there's a possibility that by the end of the week, they'll be upstripping the sidewalks up on Main, Old Main. That's the only holdup right now, is that that same crew is gonna be moving up there once they complete. So they're finishing up the water services. They did, I got a call from Rod, one of the reasons he was held up a little this evening was that there was a resident that was impacted by the service connections up there today that needed to get their water hooked up. So other than that, that project is pretty much close to completion. Once it's completed, they'll move to Old Main. From Old Main, they'll move to Longview.
Okay. Any other comments on the update of the Marshall Hills sidewalk project?
No, I have none.
Next one. Okay, let's go to the status of the infrastructure letter.
The infrastructure letter that we had sent to the Board of Selectmen, and then there was some questions raised by the Board of Selectmen in regards to how we came up with the 20% and some other questions. In the essence of time, we decided we were going to send the letter through the Board of Public Works chairman. So that was sent last week. So that is on its way to Senator Warren, Senator Markey, Congressman Keating, State Senator O'Connor, State Rep Kearney, and the governor. We also sent a copy to the Governor Baker.
If I might comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. One of the questions raised by the Board of Selectmen is, how did we come up with 20%? The bottom line is there's nominal 60-odd coastal communities, including the city of Boston, that when you divide it by 351, you come up with about 16%. And since the city of Boston is involved in our most populous city in the Commonwealth and basically has 3 significant neighborhoods and 2 lesser significant neighborhoods exposed to sea level rise and coastal storms, and I'm talking about Boston itself, South Boston, East Boston, Dorchester is in that mix too. When you add that in, I figured 16% should be bumped up to an even 20, just because we all know that if there was money authorized for coastal communities infrastructure, that the city of Boston would glom onto as much of it as they could, as quickly as they could. And I'm not saying they shouldn't. So that's why I picked the item of 20% as a choice. So it was not a hip shot in the dark. It was based on statistics. I would point out that the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator certainly could have asked that question prior to reviewing our letter, and then they would have known their answers. They chose not to. And I think I would rather be guilty of acting than not acting myself.
I agree, Dave.
So the issue about sending it without going back and forth with the selectmen or the planning board, because it's in Congress and they're negotiating the infrastructure bill, we thought it was the time was of essence, and that maybe other communities like ours would also chime in if we allowed them, to just make the idea. Everything's negotiable. 20% could be 30%. It could be 10%. The issue is that we have a problem on our coastal line, and if we could get funding and put a structure out there, we could protect Sunrise Beach, Brant Rock, and the major parts of it are being undermined. So from my standpoint, and the board, I'm going to speak for the board, we would be not doing our job if we didn't put it out.
I agree.
Because we are protecting the shorefront. Same way we would protect the water supply and making sure that we're doing our job. That's what we got elected to do. We don't sit here and just like take direction from others.
We're not turnip farmers.
Okay, that's why I did the letter. Next item is the, let's go Bill Dodge retirement.
Bill Dodge, the Veterans Agent, has retired already during the COVID pandemic, and they weren't able to do anything for him to wish him well in his retirement. So I believe the plan is to have, there's a card going around now up in the office that's being circulated for him. And there is a time scheduled for him, but
I have it, if you want.
you have,
Yeah, and basically, right now, the plan is at the Venus at 5 PM on the 29th of June, next
next
Tuesday.
Tuesday night, right?
And, Karen Paulette, who is now our Veterans Agent and was Bill's assistant, is carrying the water on this to get it done. And if anybody wishes to make a contribution to the gift for Bill, they can do it through Karen Paulette at the Veterans Office. And the other thing would be, that I would say, is I believe that there is a small fee that can be paid at the door for entry, as well as
Where
in
is
advance.
it? Where is it?
It's going to be held at the Venus.
Oh, it's on-
Yeah.
And they said that the fee at the door isn't mandatory.
Right,
that
it's voluntary.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah. And the thing I would point out is I had as did Tom, we've had the privilege of working with Bill in the superintendent's position, and in particular, I found him very helpful when we had some issues with our people that were deployed, arranging things like, giving a break on water if they were, somebody that was and if our memory serves me, I believe 8 years seniority, or an officer of captain or lieutenant senior grade, Army or Navy, Air Force, if they were less than 5 years service, then they could qualify. Beyond that, the deployment plus your expenses, and the fact that, if you're working for the town of Marshfield, you were paid anyway.
Right.
Weather wasn't an issue, but he was very good with that, very helpful with it, and.
So Dave, one question I have is, Bill Dodge's retirement party is on the 29th of June.
Yes.
Is it all day?
No, it's at 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
5 p.m., okay.
At the Venus.
At the Venus at 5 p.m.
June
Okay.
29th.
Yep.
So like 5 to 7,
Yep.
something like that?
Yep.
I just plain to the audience,
Yep.
and I don't want them to go out at noon time, so
No, I mean-
5 o'clock, a little early.
I do know that Karen is circulated among, the veteran population, so I expect a good turnout for Bill there.
Okay,
Standing question.
okay,
Rod, have to be, Rod, you need to go.
Yeah.
I'm all set, yeah.
Yep.
the last item we want to talk about is enterprise methodology.
Thank you.
At the last meeting, we had discussed, asked John to send us his comments on what the methodology, what the issues are, and we got the package on
Yep.
a couple days ago. We got the whole methodology in the red light strikeout version, I think it was Friday. So the question I have is going through this methodology, what's missing, it's all red line strikeout, I get that, but there's no categories. And I would like to know, what are the major categories, what are minor categories, and then what are things that are nice to have that really doesn't make that much difference one way or the other.
Yeah, I'll go over it.
So we really need to have, because if they're major, those are the categories we want to.
Why don't we
Wanna
go, why
focus
don't
in
we
on.
go through this now, instead of jumping the gun?
I know, I'm just making my comment. I mean, if you,
Comments before the discussion.
well, no, I'm trying to put them in categories, John.
There's no categories right now.
Well, I guess let me ask this question, Joe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some of these would be your number one priorities.
Yeah. I
Others would be
understand.
number twos, and I think that's what Sean's.
I know.
Okay, I didn't-
It's over and over and over, come on,
Sorry,
you know?
I apologize.
No, I mean, I understand.
Okay.
So what I'm asking, John, is if you want to go through the list.
I'm not gonna go
Please.
through all of it, Bob, let me start.
Just go, well, how about if you do this? Can you go through all the major ones first?
That's what I'm gonna try to do, all right?
All right, then we'll go through the minor ones, and then we'll go
Yeah. Well,
Okay, so the first major one,
we could skip through some of the minor ones, you know, and then you can review this and come up with your own list. But on page 4, one of the biggest things that's costing us a lot of money, and it's written at number 2, they've taken out the total town budget and they've taken out the schools, and that just almost doubles the percentages. So I just sent it in bold where the actual methodology calls for as a total of the town budget. So that's on the percentages. That's really at the top of the list.
okay.
Okay, so we move on. The one item I'll find it, on page 6, we also use, Matt Abrams used the percentage of the total town budget. See, I'm not adding anything saying they should use the total, it's in the methodology. That's on page 6.
So that's the same as page 4, so it's page 4 and
Yeah, well,
page 6 is together,
It's
okay.
again in the methodology, it's used. Also, if we drop back to page 4, where they've, if we don't agree with the town treasurer or the selectmen for the indirect cost, they just added this, I don't know how they come up with it, that it would go to the previous year's indirect costs. But that's not in the enterprise fund. It's actually, there's a 2021 out, the enterprise rules and regs.
So that quote that you just made, what page was that on?
Page 4,
Page 4, they put,
where you get, remove the paragraph below it.
see, what is in the DOR is that if we don't agree, it goes back to the director of accounts may request documentation of the city's or town's methodology and may reject the methodology and/or the amount for tax rate certification purpose if deemed
So
unreasonable.
on page,
That's on page 5 at the top.
Yeah.
What they put in is that, well, if you don't agree, we're just going back to last year.
well, they did that for the first year, and that's what they did.
So all I'm saying is to go to the enterprise 53 and a half, where it's written the Mass General Law, and that's what, on the top of page 5, that's what you do. You know, we don't use last year's indirect cost. You know, it goes to a negotiation here with the
Okay,
director of accounts. So that's a big one right there.
okay, so we have 2 major ones already,
That's a
okay.
big one. Okay, and some of the more minor, they're not that minor. They should use actual cost, not a budget.
So-
When they use budget, because it's a closed revenue. It's a closed fiscal year that they're using, so it's the actual cost.
So on the first minor one would be use all direct costs.
We'll use actual costs when they're trying to figure out a cost.
They'll use actual costs if they go over the budget item, or?
Well, no, what they've done is it's more like a wordsmith here.
Well, basically, you're talking about, if I'm correct,
Yeah.
John, you're talking about when we are determining the indirect cost for the next fiscal year, it would be based on some prior actual cost with inflation.
Right,
Okay, and then that is what we pay. We don't pay anything more, we don't pay anything less. We get it corrected the next year if it's too low or too high.
Without inflation?
No,
So it's prior actual
I
costs?
said, basically, you have a last year's prior cost. You're gonna have certain known increases. You build those in. But it's an actual cost with the known increases, so if there's a raise for somebody, it's built into it.
Okay.
Yeah, but the bottom line comes down, it's based on an actual cost and known changes in that cost going forward.
So that's in all the
yeah,
different.
That would be any cost.
That's a universal one.
Yep.
the rest of the health insurance, this is I actually took quite a bit of time when I edited this with Matt Abrams. Actually, this is a meeting with Matt Abrams he wouldn't meet with me unless town council was with him,
Yeah.
you know. So we met, the three of
Okay.
us. And this is some of the agreements that we were, you know, negotiating.
Yeah.
Although in the end, you know, he just never got back to me.
Okay, so,
So, no, move up, I'm beyond page 14 because it's more wordsmith.
so basically, page 7, all the different categories,
Yeah.
is that minor one, right?
Well, I'd like to
Go
move
ahead.
us back to page 5 for a moment, if I
Go
could,
ahead,
John.
go ahead, go ahead.
And, you know, this is an item that we basically ran into a year ago when our treasurer collector, you know, got on the agenda with the Board of Selectmen and basically was intimating that somehow we had basically not properly performed, when in point of fact, the fact that we were using retained earnings to offset rates, which we've always done,
Yeah,
was not stipulated in the vote. And I believe at the time, the accountant probably called them on it and said, hey, you didn't have a vote for it. The item that's here, we just did it this past year where they embedded it, but it wasn't very clear in the, to me anyway, in the vote. You know, I asked the question and it was reiterated that, oh yes, it's embedded in there. I like the format we always used to have, and I believe that's what the, instead
Yeah,
you put in
I
here,
put that
which
in
is
there.
basically, it says X amount
yep,
of retained earnings to
Yeah,
offset
that's
rates.
correct.
So there's a specific dollar amount there.
yep, they
Now,
took
we need
that.
to get back to
You
that.
you are
I
correct.
believe that. Are you comfortable with that, Tom? Yeah, I mean, to me, that's how business was done forever, and that's how we should go back to it.
That's, each individual enterprise account
Right.
had those numbers in it, you understood it?
And the bottom line comes down, if we don't do that, things can slip back again to the point where we could be called on an accounting
Yeah.
basis, simply because there wasn't a specific vote at town meeting to expend the fund.
Right.
And
Okay,
if you're
so-
doing it after the fact, DOR is gonna look at that and say, oh, you screwed up.
No,
But we
that-
didn't.
So that's on page 5, that's
That was
the
fine.
second minor piece.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted-
but that's important that.
Well, I think that provides financial clarity at town meeting for our ratepayers, and that's
Yes.
why I like it.
Okay,
Well, that was changed, if I'm correct, was
Oh, not-
the previous town administrator changed that probably 3 years.
I'm thinking it was
before.
like circa 2016, 2017
Yeah.
time,
Yeah, right around. there.
fiscal year.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's, I've been asking for that for a number of years when I first came on board.
So page 6, page 7,
Um,
page 7, we picked up the,
Yeah,
that's,
that's actual cost.
that's the only
not-
actual stuff.
That's a wordsmith.
Okay.
Actual piece of property.
Okay, I got that. Page 9,
Um,
you just
We
wanted
were up-
to,
we
No,
were
that
up to
was-
14, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, you jumped to 14.
okay, fine.
They're not as quick as I am. I gotta get something.
Yeah, but yeah, on page 11, you have a healthcare issue.
That, yeah, but this is a little bit older. I think that was taken care of. We did get some type of,
We did, that was, we did work with them on the healthcare. They had a number of individuals that were
Yeah.
being charged more than once,
Oh,
and we
yeah,
fixed
yeah,
all of that.
So that's no longer an issue.
Yeah, no, it's no longer an issue, no.
well, half of it is. We only got half of it back.
Okay.
We're gonna fight over it.
Page 12,
No, that's taken care of. So
that's done also, okay.
Retirement is
All right.
pretty,
I mean, you took the time to go through this, John. I'm going through the time, taking the time to go through it with you.
I'm with you, I appreciate it.
All right, page 13,
That's, OPEB has been taken care of.
so that's
One
done
time
also.
they tried to put it back into the general fund.
Okay.
But that's taken care of.
Okay, page 14, the Labor Council,
Yeah, we've taken that out and.
so that's done also?
Yeah, it's a direct charge. now.
Okay, fine. Page 15, nothing. Page 16,
That
postage
was
meter,
taken
That's
care
taken
of.
out. See, I put out, see what, you see the
We had out.
subcategories out.
okay,
So that's, we didn't purchase that one.
okay, so then, page 18,
Again, just to bring it.
So total town.
so that's basically the first minor one that we had before.
Yeah,
No,
but
first
that's
major
not
one.
mine.
Huh?
That's the major one.
That's the major one, I got that.
But it's used, Matt Abrams used it over and over in the.
Right, but that would affect everything. That's why I always say that's a major change.
Yeah, but it's already in there.
Right.
I'm just telling them that, okay, it's
Okay.
in there, we're gonna use the
Okay.
total town budget.
Page 19?
No.
That's insurance,
No,
that
that's
was
okay.
taken.
That's all taken care of, okay.
Yeah,
Page 20, the snow plows?
give me a second.
Equipment maintenance?
We're getting some money, 4%, I believe, we should go up. But that's something that we can negotiate on offsets for the plows and, no. Some of this, when it says it needs a lot of work, that was when I was negotiating with Matt Abrams, and we come to an agreement that needed more work, but. then
So on page 20,
Go ahead.
equipment maintenance offset for the plows is the third minor issue.
No, we're getting 4%.
It's been taken care of.
It's-
No, that's been done.
It's jumped to 5%, I believe. I don't
You
think-
got one up, didn't it, Tom?
I think it did, this
The
year
memory
it
is, I
goes
think it
to
went to
5.
5%. I think I remember Pat,
Right.
This is,
So that's already taken care of, okay.
yeah,
well,
this is, you know, it's,
Okay, under page 20, under accounting, needs work.
no, that's, I think Dan is taking care of that.
well, that's been taken care of, and with
Yeah.
the new town accountant, it's moving much better.
So that's done, okay.
That, yeah, that was a,
The IT is next, and I think we pretty much have a handle on that now that we have our own IT person, and that we'll track the enterprise funds when they
Right.
work for the enterprise, and that's, the indirects will handle that and offsets whatever.
So basically, we're working on that piece.
yeah, that's,
I have a question, and as you're observing, Dave Kelly, who's the IT rep we have working directly for us right now, he's not giving you any kind of, tracking, in increments of time, at present time, as to how much goes to water versus, okay.
No, and what we've done, though, is that we've set up a work order program.
Okay,
So we track the number of work
Okay.
orders that will be done through the enterprise.
that covers that, good, thank you.
So basically,
that's okay, Bob.
that issue is done.
Yeah, because we have.
Okay. On page 22, you
Yeah,
have
that's-
underlined the
well,
amount of
that's-
infrastructure costs.
That's, you remember how he was doing it, you're the one who brought it up.
Right.
Remember, there was,
Yeah,
So that's okay, that's already, that's taken care of, that's done.
excellent.
Yeah.
Treasure collector, I still think he overcharges us, but, we gotta negotiate with him.
So on the treasure collector, needs a lot of work, what's that mean?
Well, at the time, it needs a lot of work. It still does need a lot of work. I mean, he's charging us for everything but, the pencil erasers.
well, I mean, if I might, Tom, some conversations I've had with Dan,
Page 24.
I seem to recall in 23 that, that when you guys have called him to account on certain things, he's basically agreed and backed off when he felt you were right. Obviously, he
Yes.
wouldn't if he didn't, but.
So
He is easier to work with than anything we've had in the past since Nancy Holt departed, I guess.
100% correct. Yeah.
So I would put that work in progress.
Yeah, but on
Yeah,
24 was what we were being charged for, mailing a bill. I mean, it goes on and on, refunds,
Yeah.
liens,
But that's not a minor issue, those are just a commentary.
yeah, we
Okay.
gotta keep our
No,
eye.
and I think though too, with the implementation of the new Munis software,
Yeah.
it's gonna help a lot of these issues also because we're gonna be able to handle a lot of it in-house.
Yeah, and memory is, that breaks things down in a more by category incremental type basis from the presentation we had.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So basically,
It even goes on to page 25, Paul.
my point on page 23, 24, and 25, with the
That's the-
treasurer collector, which the new software, Muni software that we're contributing to, is a work in progress, and once it's that implemented, it'll basically, make it a non-issue.
We'll know better what issues we still
Yeah,
have.
we've got it.
Yeah, okay, fine,
Yeah, that way to phrase it.
okay.
I mean, he's even been charged for the one stock, security, number 10 windows.
Okay, so the next item would be under page 28.
Let me look at it. Well, on 28, that was the town council we took him out. And that's
He's now direct charge.
No, on page 28, you have DPW administration.
They were charging us quite a bit of money there. I should have put in the amount, but this goes back a number of years. I think at that time, you were on the board and you weren't even taking any dollar amount.
Right.
So basically, this is.
That's a minor.
That is taken across all four
Right.
Yeah, I thought,
accounts, so it's
Yeah.
broken up by quarters.
So will we say that both those subcategories, the DPW administration and the Board of Public Works elected officials is a non-issue?
it's a minor issue.
Let's put it this way. We certainly wouldn't want to go to war over the effect on the budget.
No, it's.
So basically, those two items are done?
Yeah.
Okay.
29, the town council that's a direct
That's
charge.
That's done.
And then we get down to the,
30.
Okay.
we get down to the town administrator selectman. I mean, this is my recommendation, it's an hour a day, and it's broken down into, the actual cost.
So town administrator, we need to have a further discussion on it?
Well, we've got to get his time for the almost $80,000 he's charging us. We gotta know, well, what is it,
Well, it's based on, I would think if it's based on everything except for the schools is one number, and if everything, with including the schools, is another
Well,
number.
that's-
That goes back to the major component.
But there's more beyond that, in that, what you don't have with the town administrator is any actual incremental documentation of a given hour in a day devoted to either water, wastewater, or solid waste. It's just not there. But, and the but would be, one of the things this past year has prevented, and I would think the cost should be reflected, is the town administrator has devoted a great deal of time to COVID-19 and the inoculation program at the fairgrounds. He has been a presence there, and those hours definitely should be reflected out of water, wastewater, and solid waste, because they really don't have an impact on those
Right.
in any way, shape, or form. That would be a negotiation when you're looking at, the indirects for this year, for the new budget, 2023 budget. I guess my question would be, I don't know how, the argument's gonna be that was a one-time event. Well, then there should be an adjustment for this one-time year. There's no reason they can't be.
So my point on this one would be, we need the discussion, we need to talk about accountability.
We need,
And-
documentation.
And documentation.
Documentation, because we can go back to DOR under the actual enterprise funds.
So we need
underneath.
documentation.
No, well, we can, in other words, DOR can say, wait a minute, we want documentation, because there's no agreement on this. Where did this figure come from?
But I mean, basically, DOR has already been on record that they do not want to be the referee for the town of Marshfield working out its stuff. So I think, that's falling on deaf ears. We need to think of a different approach that basically, if things go south, and that would be my,
Well, we need documentation.
well, I don't disagree with that, but I basically, barring getting the documentation, as long as staff is telling me that, we're getting incremental changes and they're moving in the right direction, I'm going to say that I'm okay with that from the perspective of, not going to, drop the hammer and refuse to approve, the indirects if they look reasonable. But if they don't look reasonable, then, we need to, have a discussion among ourselves at that point in time about what other action can we do that would incent town administration to basically come into agreement with us.
Yeah, well, it's half his salary, you can just put it in like that. But anyhow, that's all.
Okay, on page 30,
Yeah.
offsets,
Well, the offsets, that was prior to the 4% that went to 5%, so that's okay up top.
Well, that would be, but we do have one that I think we're all in agreement on that basically is pretty much black letter when it comes to the enterprise regulations. If we are using enterprise employees on a straight time function, snowplowing, okay? That should be rolled into the offset, and
Oh,
to
yeah.
date, we haven't refused that. And I don't know, I mean, I'm gonna leave it to staff to try and bring that forward again, okay? You know, to me, it should happen. You know, it's real. I don't wanna move away from using our staff, but when we do it, that could be applied against snow and ice. Because the alternative is, if we don't, you're gonna be hiring a contractor.
Right.
If this board says, no, you can't use the enterprise division employees to plow snow unless it happens to be for a specific enterprise function. Yeah, they will plow the wastewater plant grounds, they will plow the transfer station grounds, they will plow down into the well sites and up around the tanks. But they won't be plowing the streets unless there's a break someplace and then we mobilize crews to take them. If you can't get some kind of agreement there. I don't want to as a town DPW, I don't want to be handcuffing ourselves when it comes to snow and ice removal. But we should be able to get to some kind of offset on it, even if it's not 100%, maybe 50% or something like that.
What's in the enterprise manual?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah, you know,
I
that
think you
no
have to-
employees can work.
I think you have to take into consideration too, that our plow group
Yeah,
is aging. Our contractors are aging.
yes.
And there are not a lot of people going into that business anymore.
I don't know if you've driven up 3A lately?
I have.
Okay, you saw the sign posted there at Situate before the school complex? They're seeking, that's mine. No, it's not.
Well, that's me.
But anyway, they're posting, they got a sign posting out there, they're seeking CDL drivers.
There's one going up tomorrow right out in front of 965.
So I think, yeah,
one of those
we have
message
to
boards.
balance, to me, we have to balance that issue. And, you know, the approach should be, if we're working on straight time, you know,
Okay,
they should be taking care of that from our perspective. Obviously, any of our guys we're using outside of straight time on overtime, that comes out of snow and ice and there's no argument. So I don't know why there should be an argument about water enterprise, wastewater, and solid waste enterprise folks on straight time. Yeah.
okay, so on page 30, the lower part, it says use local charges per
Yep.
pay hour subs for plowing. Need cost for enterprise equipment used by cemetery.
Yeah, we were using the backhoe at the time.
That way,
Yeah, we don't do that
Yeah,
anymore.
is
We
that out?
bought our own piece of equipment.
Up at cemetery.
so is it just a non-issue?
That's
That one's out, that's gone.
It's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there will be exceptions to when we have an emergency where that should be done. I mean, you may have to, because a piece of equipment's broken or something, but it should be the exception, not the rule.
Okay, how about page 31, top of page?
Well, that was,
That's not happening.
that actually passed, and they won't, they say it's legal but not proper.
Yeah, and the inclusion of the enterprise division specifically as part of the audit, you know, failed at town meeting, so.
This one passed.
I know, I was there, I voted for it, but the money is sitting there, the bottom line is,
I
town
know,
council will pine, and we can't get past that.
So basically, it's a non-issue?
Well, it's there, it's still an issue, but I don't know how we resolve it.
but the town meeting,
At
town
this time.
meeting members voted it, so it's
And
still.
the town council's opinion was that that violated, that infringed on the executive authority of the board of selectmen, and therefore, it can't happen.
Well, the issue was, is that when we did the forensic audit, we didn't have the methodology in place.
The issue was specifically stated by town council, I recall it exactly, was that the board of selectmen did not have to implement it because it was infringing on their executive authority. Those were his exact words.
That was just as an opinion, you know, that's not what town meeting passed.
Okay, now we're going on to the appendix.
Yeah, yeah.
On the appendix, on page 33, what is this language here?
Well, that's just how you come up with a cost. That's part of, actually, the father there, what's his name, not Matt, what's that?
Yeah, Abrams, I mean,
The Abrams.
Yeah.
In other words, you can use different ways to negotiate a cost.
Yeah.
And that's all he was trying, that's when he runs a course for costing.
So would you say this is a mine issue?
That's
Just-
minor, that was just put in there, that's
Okay,
nothing really
okay, and then the
strong.
next one? Halfway down?
Yeah, that's, in other words, on the indirect cost, it reflects on the fees. So you know, the fees will go up if the indirect costs go up. So the charges, this is, the indirect costs are not to raise revenues, but to compensate the government entity providing the service for its expenses. That was an Innovis and College versus Boston case. What that means is that, I'll just take the town administrator's cost of $80,000. That money goes right back into the general fund. But if we need, that's when we could come back and say, we need documentation, because that money is not to raise revenue for the general fund, to compensate it for the services is documentation.
So on page 34,
Postage is out, and we've already taken care of that. Legal counsel is out. And the last page, 35, that's the, what I put there was, when they had the indirect cost, if you go back to a number of years back, 2009, 2010, all those columns were there. You could see exactly where everything was coming from. And I asked that those indirect Schedule C would be put back the way it was back in 2010. And of course, they made it less and less and less. And then one year, they completely left it out of the town meeting.
Right, they forgot to put it in, we had to go back in the spring. and
Yeah, they didn't even put it in.
Right.
so
That's it.
to summarize this discussion, we have two major issues. On page 4, where the town budget, no schools versus schools.
Correct, yeah, that's a big one, right?
Right? And the same thing is the page 4, removal of the prior year's indirect language, to be revert back. Those are the two major issues.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, for the minor issues, all right, is that across the board, universal, is that anything that's an actual cost, we need to record as an actual cost.
That's true.
All right, the second is page 5, retain earnings to offset rates. On page 20, there were issues that I wrote down, I didn't write it down here. Page 29 is the town administrator, we need documentation of how he comes up with this cost. Page 30, offsets, pretty much taken care of, but we need to keep control over the offset costs, especially the ones that we don't get paid for now, which is the straight time during regular business hours for plowing.
That's
All right?
correct.
Okay, and then in the appendix, there was some language suggestions, based on documentation. And then I think that basically sums it up. Did I get it?
Yep.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you did. It's a
Very good.
work in progress, but at least it gives us a start. By the way, in the enterprise fund manual, it says that, or in this manual, that each year it will be updated.
So Tom, why don't we codify this and have a discussion with you, me, and Dan, and then we can have a meeting with the other side.
Yes, yeah, Dan's on vacation for the rest of this week,
Yeah?
so, I go on vacation on Monday till the 11th of July. So,
But the big issue really is, we need to actually substantiate what, on the major issues, how much is really, is it hitting us for what, by using the base without the schools versus the schools, and what would be the other argument on this side of why not to include the schools? So we need to have basically a written brief on cause and effect and dollar value.
right, and there is language within this policy that states, as John mentioned earlier, that it states they should do it both ways, using the school and using just payroll. There's two ways of doing it. in
Use the
that-
total town budget.
To get the total town
Yeah,
budget.
yeah.
I agree with that, but we need to have a strong written brief.
No, and I think the opportunity to sit down with the three of us to discuss, we can do those numbers and come up with the differences, so that we have some backup data that we can use in a meeting to
Yeah.
show the differences, and it's, I mean, it's black and white, it's written right
It's right in there.
in the policy how we should do it.
Right, so we clean up the policy, but the other questions that, if they're done, we can basically,
Right.
don't have a big argument about it.
So I think we,
But I want to do it as a systematic approach, same thing we did here, so that we have a good, straightforward discussion
Yep.
of, you know, so that we can argue that there is a major cost change one way or the other. Or there's minor costs change one way, but at least you put it on the table.
right.
Well, as Dave brought up, the actual cost, now, on the actual cost, should be a direct cost, is pensions,
Insurance.
the health insurance, anything that's down to the very penny is a direct cost. We should put it in as a direct cost, not as an indirect cost, because yeah, it doesn't affect our budget at all. It's the same amount of money, but they're just, you know, gaming the system by putting it in the indirect cost.
Right,
in the
it's
general
not,
fund.
not to cut John off, but to expand on that, is that if we know what the actual cost is in the past, going forward, we don't know what the cost is, but we can agree upon some kind of a number
Well, let me
that's based
interrupt.
on an actual cost.
No, let me just, I don't mean to interrupt you, but those costs we're talking about is for a closed budget. It's a previous fiscal year closed budget. That's where the cost comes from.
Correct.
It's not something that we have to estimate or anything. It's a closed budget. They're using a budget that's either 2 years, is it 2 years back? So it's a 2-year-old fiscal year
Look back.
budget that's closed. So we know what the actual cost is in there. We just want to move it to
So
a direct
on those things that it's not estimate. It's based on actual,
Right.
actual previous years with an agreed upon inflation factor.
And there's no inflation. It's a closed budget.
It's closed.
There's no inflation. It's a number for, let's say the pension is $5 million in 2019, all right? So they're using $5 million in 2019 as an indirect cost. What we're saying, it's a closed fiscal year budget, it's $5 million, it's an exact amount, it goes as a direct cost. That's all.
See, the budget's closed out, everything's been paid for.
Right.
So there is an actual number
Yeah.
that they should be using. The
Well, yeah,
actual number.
they're using it in the indirect,
Right,
but we just want, because it's an actual number
right.
to the penny, we want to move it to the.
So they estimate pension, they estimate insurance, they,
Well, not on a closed budget.
No.
No, a closed budget, see, it's an exact amount. I've looked at the pensions, I've looked at healthcare, it's closed,
yeah,
and it's it, there's no.
But those numbers are not estimated, they're based
No.
on actual numbers, they don't
Correct.
use the actual numbers. I agree with you, John.
Yeah, no, they're just throwing it as an indirect. All we want to do is move it as a direct, it doesn't affect.
But when we
our-
first wrote the methodology a number of years ago, it was not, we didn't have actual numbers to work from. Since then, we have.
right. They hadn't at the time had an actuary bring everything up
That's
to
correct, on the
table.
pensions, but I've looked at that, there's an exact cost.
Right.
It's a closed fiscal year budget, the town's budget is closed, it's 2 years old, and those are the numbers they're using, and they're actual.
So
It's a work in progress.
it is a work in progress, and when we first put this together, we knew it was going to be a work in progress, and that's the reason why the language in it says that we do work in progress moving forward.
And annually, we would sit down and discuss any changes
Right.
that we could mutually agree.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're done with this?
yeah.
All right, and you set up the meeting?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that with the end.
Okay, and then the next item is superintendent's report, anything that?
Well, other than, I mean, I've pretty much given you the updates on all the projects. One other project is Damon's Point. The sluiceway is in place, it's working. They gotta do some shaping and work on the slopes. So that's the remainder of that project, and that will be complete. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be in on Monday morning for a couple hours, and then I will be on vacation until the 11th of July. I will be available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I will be available if I'm needed to come back down for any reason.
Are you gonna be coming in on the 965 meeting?
I will,
Regular
yes.
meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll be there for the regular meeting. But also, this Thursday, the 24th, I have a Plymouth County Mosquito Control Board meeting at 9:30 in Plymouth, and I have a Plymouth County Highway Association meeting at 11 o'clock in Middleborough. So I'll be out of the office most of the day at those two meetings.
So on that highway meeting, you bring up infrastructure?
Yes, that's one of the things that I was going to discuss with that. As the president, I control the agenda, and that was one of the things that I was going to bring up as a public information notice to my fellow Plymouth County DPW people that are along the coast, if they would be interested in joining us with that letter.
That'd be good.
I'm fine, that's great.
Yeah.
Any other items that
I
we
got
want to
one
discuss?
question. I got
Actually, I have a request, which would be, since we do have a contact that I think will be more than willing to listen to what you have to say, sir, you might send a copy of the letter down the board?
I certainly will. I
I
certainly
mean, spread
will.
it around.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good suggestion. Tom, just a question. I got an email from Chris Rohan. The crosswalks in the center of town, he said are faded. So are we updating our crosswalks? I didn't even look, so I don't
No,
think they're faded that much.
We normally have addressed this, the crosswalks between April and now. Funding.
He didn't, I don't mean to interrupt you, he didn't indicate, he didn't give me an address or anything.
No, he was talking about down at the center, I think,
Yeah,
and that they are faded. We just did Brent Rock.
Okay. So it's a work in progress.
It is. And I have a hold on overtime because it's the end of the fiscal year. And when we do the crosswalks, it has to be done at night.
Correct.
All right, so it's an overtime cost. And if we do it in the day, the traffic is so bad, we wouldn't get much accomplished, and we'd be spending more because it would require a police detail.
Yeah.
Right now, we can do it at night without the detail. We have enough lights on our trucks that, warn people in advance. So that's, and if I may, I will suggest through the chair that I will respond to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen
Yeah.
in regards to our line painting,
You saw
because,
the email.
yes, I did, I was CC'd on it. And what I'd like to do is respond to that and have the chairman of the Board of Selectmen actually work with us to advocate the line painting, public safety,
Yeah.
and perhaps a separate line
Yeah,
item.
maybe they have some money tucked away that they can offer them.
Well, I mean, we were told last week that we're going to have to cut our budget. There are a number of positions that they weren't cut, but they were unfunded. And so we're looking at the possibility of cutting $167,000 from our general fund budget.
With all
So,
the money the town has.
well, one of the problems with that, if it's fair, I've been told it's across the board, this 167,000. I don't have, I'm good with that across the board. We'll find where we need to cut, all right? And I understand it's due to revenues, based practically all on the COVID issues. So we're going to address it and, overtime has been an issue. Bodies get the work done, not overtime. So as a manager, it's my responsibility to work within the budget. Overtime is for emergencies, is the way I look at it, and I need more bodies than I need overtime money, because bodies get the work done. But we've told that this could only be temporarily for a year or 2 or 3 at the most, and perhaps we will get those positions back. But we're short-handed. I got people that positions, like I just said, I can't fill, so. But we're doing the best we can with what we have, and, you know, we just have to prioritize things. Some things that normally get done won't be done in a timely manner. They'll eventually be done, but, you know, we've got to prioritize, and we've got to, public safety is number 1. So those are the things we have to concentrate on.
All right. Any more comments on?
Fine, hockey's on at 8, so.
Okay, I'd like to adjournment, that we have an emergency meeting, adjournment, so John can go watch his hockey game. Do I have a second?
Well, now, wait a minute, depends on who he's rooting for, because the last meeting we had, he had to get home to that hockey game, and they got murdered.
On the island.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I like to see Tampa win.
Thank you, Marshall.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Seconded for Tampa.
All right.
All in favor?
Thank you.
They tied it, right?